Hello and welcome to another video. This is my March wrap up. I have, how many books have we got here? 7 books that I read in the month of March. So I thought I would just discuss them, give my ratings for them. So I had 2 that were 3 stars, 3 that were 4 stars and 2 that were 5 stars. So I had quite a good reading month actually. So I'm quite pleased with that. Let's start with the lowest rating and finish with the highest, which is what I like to do with these sort of videos, just because then you finish the video on a high. You don't want to finish the video on like the lowest rated book. Do you know? So I think, yeah, it's just a nicer way of doing it, I suppose. So first of all, we have Stalker by Lisa Stone. So this is basically following Derek Flint. He's a loner, the typical, you know, stereotype for someone in their late 30s, 40s that have just continued to live with their mother. And there's this weird mother-son relationship going on, and she's not nice to him, that sort of thing. Okay, so it's very much doing that stereotype. And then you kind of have Derek Flint, who sets up his own company. He's very weird. So what he does is installs cameras and for this as a security firm into families' homes, and he ends up just watching them every night. And the idea is that he sees them as his extended family, or like more of a family to him than what his mother is. So he's strange in that sense, but it kind of means that the police pinpoint some crimes onto him and basically state that he's the one that's done these crimes because he's the oddball. And yeah, it's still very nice. Okay, it's still very nice. But there was, quite a few bits of this book that I did enjoy. But I do kind of feel like the pacing was a bit off, because we are just set pretty much in the room of this Derek Flint, and we're kind of just seeing him watching these families in their own homes. And I don't know, I didn't like the fact that it was very much stereotyping a certain type of person, and it was showing, how the police will just get it wrong based on appearances. And so, yeah, I don't know, there was stuff that I enjoyed about this, but at the same time, there was parts of this book where I just feel like it was very slow paced. So for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. Then we have The Ninth Grave by Stefan Ahnum, which is basically a Swedish crime book. It has been translated. It's set between Stockholm and Copenhagen, and you basically have 2 crime stories. It's completely different storylines running alongside one another. So you basically see something that's happening in Stockholm and something that is happening in Copenhagen. 2 lots of detectives trying to figure out the cases that they're working on. And you start, it's not until like the very bit at the end where you start to see that there might be some sort of connection between the 2. But for the majority of the book, it's basically just feels like the author had 2 ideas, put them together and create this quite long book. It's about 560 or 550 pages, so it does go on for quite a while. I did really like the setting in this, and there was a good amount that I did enjoy with this. I just kind of feel like it was probably a lot longer than it needed to be. I kind of just started to lose a bit of interest, which is another great, but I gave it 5 I didn't give it 5 stars. I gave it 3 stars. So it wasn't a bad book by any means. It just, wasn't a new favourite for me. And then for the 4 stars, we have Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. So this one, okay, so this is very good for reading this month, which is, this is like National Women's Month. Is that what they call it? I think so, yeah. Women's History Month, isn't it? This is great for this time of the year when we are discussing women. So this basically follows a chemist, Elizabeth Zott, and we see her in the 1960s, And we kind of see how women are portrayed in the 60s and how they were just basically there to cook, clean, keep the house. And Elizabeth Zott decides that she's in this all-male team. She doesn't like how she's being treated. So she does this thing where she basically goes on TV and decides to basically tell women that, you know, to know your worth and to change the status quo, that you're not here to just cook and clean. If you do what you want to do, if there is a certain career that you want to do, don't let a man hold you back. I loved the meanings within this book. I really did. I thought it was a very, you know, I just think it was a very good story, and I just really enjoyed it. It brings out the feminist in you. It definitely does. There are points where you do get a bit angry because there are moments where, you know, we see how they're treated and it just makes you angry a bit. But I really enjoyed this, so I gave it 4 stars. Then we have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So this is a bit of like a virus type thing. The world basically collapsing. It's post-apocalyptic style story. Yeah, I think this is probably, a lot of people already know what this is about. I think this is kind of was everywhere for a long time. It's always in the lists of books to read, you know, around October time. Yeah, I think this is scary to read after, you know, we have gone through a pandemic. But obviously this was written way before, and this is obviously more extreme because they end up having no fuel, cars just become non-existent, you can't fly anywhere anymore. The whole world has changed, so it's not like how we went back to normal after the COVID. In this story, that it just all changes, and you kind of see how people cope afterwards. So not only like the people who lived through the virus, but also people that are born afterwards, where they never knew about planes or cars or had never known any of this sort of stuff. So it's a very clever take on it. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. Then we have The Mayfly by James Hazel. So this is a thriller. This is following Charlie Priest, who was an ex-detective inspector. He's now a London lawyer. He gets called in by this influential entrepreneur, Kenneth Ellender, after Ellender's son has been killed. And the idea is that Priest is going to be having to look into this case, but he kind of starts to see evidence that goes back to the Second World War, and in particular a doctor who used to poison people in the Holocaust just as like a form of torture. And the whole idea is that this seems to be starting to happen again. And Charlie Priest has kind of worked out that there's something connected between the cases that are happening now and what was happening in the Second World War. It's gory in many places. Also, if you're triggered by war or by the Holocaust, I don't think this is going to be a great book. It goes into detail, and it's also not for the faint-hearted because some of the scenes are very gruesome and the author doesn't hold back. I personally enjoyed, I don't think you could say enjoyed because of like the concept of the story, but you know what I mean. I thought it was very good. I really liked the writing. There was a lot of descriptions in here which I just really liked. It was like simple things about the light, how the light was coming through the window, all that sort of thing. What I love to read in a book, because it just puts you there in this setting, doesn't it? So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And then we've got the 2 5-star reads, and they were both new releases this month as well. So first of all, we have The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This one is a bit more slow paced, but I still really enjoyed it. It's set in 1917, 1918. You basically have Laura, who is a nurse. She was on the front line. She gets injured on the front line, so she's like taken out. In the meantime, her brother, was it Freddie? Yeah, it's Freddie. So her brother Freddie is out on the front line fighting, and she gets a message to say that he is missing and presumed dead. But they give his tags to her, so she's like, well, if he's missing, presumed dead, how have you got his tags? So she decides that she's going to go back to the front line and find out what has happened to her brother. So this one, very much historical fiction. I absolutely loved the fact that we kind of saw, you know, this brother-sister dynamic, how far you would go to help someone that you love. You basically see Laura doing whatever she can to find her brother, to find out what has happened to him. And you do see scenes of him out on the front line. Basically, whilst he's out there, there's like an explosion and he ends up by himself, apart from with there's one other lone German soldier who survived. And you kind of see this friendship blossom between this Canadian soldier who is Freddie and this German soldier. And yeah, you're basically following how they managed to get out, what happens to them afterwards. You then see obviously Laura going back to the front line. She's going back to work in a hospital, you know, obviously treating the injured soldiers. And yeah, it's very poignant at times, and there are points in the story which are quite hard to read, but there is a sense of an almost paranormal element to it as well. And the whole idea that, you know, there are ghosts that are helping to, and there's points in the story where they're basically getting helped by ghosts. It's where the whole warm hands of ghosts comes in. And yeah, there's also possible devil type thing going on. There's not much more I can say about the book. I kind of feel like just go into it blind, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good read, and I would definitely recommend it. I don't think it's for everyone because it is quite slow. And if you're not a fan of historical fiction, then it's probably not going to be the one for you. But I personally really enjoyed it. Give 5 stars. And then lastly, another 5-star read. Also the one that I think is the top read of the month. And it is A Tempest of Tea. This book. Okay, so Peaky Blinders. Also, if you're a fan of Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo as well, this very much reminds me of Kaz with like the group of misfits. This is a bit like that and a bit like Peaky Blinders, all rolled into one. I don't know, I just thought this was a brilliant book. So during the day it is a cozy tea shop, and then at night it becomes like this blood house where vampires go, and they basically go and pay humans to be able to take their blood, that type of thing. So we have our main character, was Artie. I don't know if you say it as Artie or Artie, I don't know, but she's basically a criminal mastermind and a collector of secrets. And then when she basically gets told that her tea house / blood house is getting torn down, she basically leads a gang of outcasts in a high stakes heist to the sinister vampire underworld to basically she'll do anything to protect what she owns. And yeah, I don't know, I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was brilliant. I really did. I am so glad that I didn't really know much about it. I kind of read the synopsis and was like, you know what, this sounds like a good read. I'm so glad that I took the leap and pre-ordered it and it arrived, and I even went for the sprayed-edged version as well because I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars and it was definitely in the top read of the month. It just, yeah, I don't know, there was just something about it. I love a bit of action in my story. I love a group of misfits coming together. Yeah, there was a lot to this book, but yeah, so if you like Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo and you like Peaky Blinders, then this book will definitely be right up your street. But there we have it. Those were the books that I read this month in March. So yeah, I think I had a quite good read about, so I'm quite pleased with all of the books that I read this month. But thank you ever so much for watching, and I will definitely be back very soon with another video. Bye for now.